Alrighty, welcome everybody. This is the Hudson River Park Advisory Council March meeting. I'm Tammy Meltzer, the current chair, joined with Leslie from CB4, our first vice chair, and Susan Kent from CB2, who's our second vice chair. And attendance, everybody please sign in for attendance. I know I'm guilty, I have to sign in as well, even though I'm here. Really important, I dropped the link in. It's on the agenda. It was distributed by email and it was also dropped in the chat for people. Just a friendly reminder, if you put things into chat, it doesn't become part of the permanent recorded record. So if you have something to say, we'll ask that you raise your hand if you're a member of the advisory council. And our first, other than welcome, our first point of order is a vote for approval for the November minutes. Do I hear any questions or feedback or concerns on the November minutes? Hearing and seeing none in the room, can I get a motion made and seconded? So we'll do a vote by affirmation on this one because I'd not like to do roll call, please. And so are there any no's? Are there any abstentions or recusals? Perfect. Thank you. Motion passes. Our first speaker tonight is we want to welcome Connie Fishman from Hudson River Park Friends to give us the 2025-26 update. Let me pass the mic, or would you like to stand at the podium? Seated is great. Hold on. Ma'am, I hear you. We don't have a public comment section of this meeting. The public is welcome to attend, but the bylaws doesn't have a public comment section. If the topic is on our agenda this evening, then certainly it gets covered. I see the signs. Let's wait till we get to the Hudson River Park Trust report and go there. But our first order of business tonight is the Hudson River Park Friends update. We don't have a public speaking portion of the meeting. Well, I'm going to say no because we don't have the update yet. If there are questions after the updates, ma'am, please, can you please? The update comes from the trust, which is our fourth item on tonight's agenda. If you'd like to wait and be partnership as part of the community to hear all of the updates that we have, because we're going over the Hudson River Park Friends, the funding on the park, the membership in the park, and then the report updates. That's great. Sounds great. Connie, you're up. Connie, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Is this working? If you were here a year away, closer. Okay. If you were here probably about a year ago, is this audible? Is it possible to, Tammy or Robert, is it possible to get the little Zoom side box off the screen? Okay, so about a year ago, we did a report for 2024. This is 2025. Hopefully you can hear me.
Understand, we'd like everybody to take a seat. There will be absolutely no shouting while other people are trying to do their reports, okay? Please take your seat. If we can't actually conduct the business of the advisory council, we'll have to take a break. So Connie, thank you so much. Let's take a 5-minute break in the meeting to see if we can conduct business.
Time when we have a president and administration that is routinely flouting the law, breaking the law, and shredding the Constitution. Now is not the time to hide behind legality.
No collaboration.
Now is not the time to say, oh, our attorneys looked at the contract and oh, we can't do anything, we're so weak. This is our land, our city land, our state land. And you absolutely have the power if you want to exercise it. You have the power to kick ICE off of Pier 40. You simply and let Gallup fall where they may. The people will look back at this time. They will look to see what people did and why they did it. Look back at 30.
Hey, everyone, can I address the people in the room? I'm going to address you. I'm going to address you. I'm going to address the people in the room because I just want to know, and I represent CB4, right? Tammy here is the chair. She represents CB1. Susan represents CB2. I think you guys, I'm not sure if you know what this body is. Okay, so we're not the board. There is a Hudson River Park Trust board, just so you know. So this is the advisory council. What this is representatives from the community. These are different community organizations and community boards. And what we do is we ask questions of Hudson River Park Trust. We ask questions of the board. Hold on. Of the board. We also sometimes advise or write letters. Just to make it clear, as this is just as a representative of CB4 also agreed, and we wrote a letter asking that ICE trucks be, that the contract be reevaluated. So we did that as well, just so you know where we're at. No, absolutely. I just want to explain what we do here, just so, because people won't know, because we're not, it's not, okay, thank you, just so you know. Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. And there are some people who have marched with you as well, for sure, just so you know. Okay, thank you.
Even.
Yes,
Okay, it's quieted down. Let's pass this back to Connie. And then when we get to that part of the agenda, we'll be asking questions for the trust as we did last time as well. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so for people who were representatives a year ago, we did something similar. So the organization is pretty much the same. This is the Friends annual recap for 2025. Want me to control the? Okay, sorry. Uh, the job of Friends is to raise additional operating revenue in addition to the rents that come in to the Hudson River Park Trust from the park tenants and other fees that they collect. And these are the general areas that we raise funds for. If you go to the website, which we share with the trust, the general operating support category is called HRPK 550, Care for Every Acre. And that is where somebody who doesn't have a very specific interest or is joining a group would donate to support whatever they feel like in the park, something that is not restricted. The other areas are raising funds for the estuary education and research, which goes on. And I think the River Project has probably been here at some point to give a presentation of what they do. So some of that is funding that goes to that department. Environmental stewardship and sustainability, which includes things just fundraising, but also involved in volunteering like composting or the plastics reduction program, which also picks up plastics in the Hudson River, community outreach, advocacy with our elected officials, maintaining horticulture. We have a lot of volunteers every year who participate in this. On the next slide, we'll be able to see that. And then more recently, program support for the arts, performing arts, fitness, summer programs, and cultural events that you see every year. And then independently, maintenance and, in the case of playgrounds, actual capital construction for the playgrounds and dog runs. Plus, we share social media, marketing, and communications staff together with the trust. Next. Our major revenue sources are gifts from our board of directors, from events, from a corporate giving program that is founded mostly on volunteering for employees, individual giving and park membership, and then various committees and affinity groups, people who specifically care about dogs or science or art and want to give to something specific. In addition, we have a small amount of foundation and government grants. Next. So these are the volunteer opportunities. There are corporate community service days, what's called the HRP Green Team, which meets every other Saturday beginning, I believe, in mid-April. The Blue Team, which is similar, but instead of working in the horticulture, they clean up the edge of the river. Neighborhood gardeners, who are individuals who come 2 or 3 times a week regularly. They have their own little section of the park. They work independently with the horticulture representative from the trust about where they're going to be and what they're going to do. And these are mostly neighborhood folks who are within a couple of blocks. I think they have their own tools and they become very knowledgeable about horticulture. We have compost facilitators who work in the compost center, helping the trust staff. And then we have folks who help staff public programs and events. Next. These are our current corporate members. There's 56 of them. Friends is really fortunate that the business community in the business districts adjacent to the park have grown tremendously since it was created. So we now have people from Hudson Yards down to the financial district. And it seems like they're growing constantly. So this has been a really, really sort of good development for us. I think it has at least quadrupled in the last 4 or 5 years. Next. And these are our program sponsors last year. City has been a presenting sponsor for, I think, 4 years running, and then supporting sponsors, Colgate and Circle Line, which is New York's cruise line. Next. And then this is what volunteering looks like in terms of numbers. We actually left off December, even though we actually go, I think last year it ended around December 8th. The big, tall double the number in June is because City comes out and does a whole city week. where they bring hundreds and hundreds of their employees out, including on a Saturday, they have City Family Day, where people come out with their spouses and kids and friends. Next. And then this is a distribution of where most volunteering takes place. You notice a big section in Tribeca. That is because the area with the boardwalk in particular gets a lot of weeds. And so that turns out to be a bulk of the work down there in the summer. There's also a lot up in the Habitat Garden at 26th Street, and then it's spread out throughout the rest of the park. Next. These are the public events that the volunteers support. The big ones that the trust has every year, the Science Fair, Submerge, Blues Barbecue, a smaller one, Release of the Fishes, where all the fishes from the wet lab go back into the water, and Pumpkin Smash, which is a composting event after Halloween where people bring their old pumpkins. Next. And then this is the annual impact. We were down a little bit this year. It's usually between 2,500 and 3,000, and it counts for 105 projects. It turns out it's hard to accomplish all this in a year because of the weather. And so there are a lot of days where we double up, and then is usually volunteering 5 or 6 days a week from April until just after Halloween. Next. We recently started doing a quarterly newsletter, which we send to 1,400 volunteers, and it helps them recruit. And also what happens is people who start out volunteering at a corporate community service day, if they really like it, they wind up coming back and joining green teams and doing it on Saturday and bringing friends and neighbors. Next. And then every year in the winter, we thank them with a little party at City Vineyard downtown because of the tremendous amount of work they do, and award something called the Golden Shovel. We also have a big community partners program. We now have 52. You can see how they're distributed. A lot of pet activities. The bar that says just activity, those are the actual tenants in the parks, a lot of nonprofits, especially, who do things like the boating groups, and then lifestyle and food and drink, mostly, I would say, within 3 or 4 blocks from the park, all up and down the 4 miles. Next. And then we have a business council to take advantage of the large corporations that we have nearby, who join, and it's sort of a combination, learning about the park, getting to network with their neighbors. A lot of them work side by side in different buildings, and they don't know anybody from these other companies. So it's a nice way to introduce them to other people on the West Side, especially since a lot of the firms are new to downtown on the West Side. And a couple of the activities we did for the Business Council, one was a tour of one of the new historic restorations that happened up in northern Chelsea in the last couple of years at the Terminal Warehouse. And one was a presentation by the folks developing the Gateway Tunnel project at 29th Street. Next. And then we have 2 major events every year, a gala in October and a luncheon in March, which we just had 2 weeks ago. These have been growing, I would say, the luncheon in particular, more recently since COVID, and are a way of engaging folks in all of the neighborhoods in sort of a setting where they get to bring their friends and neighbors. They're very good recruiting opportunities, especially the luncheon. After the luncheon every year, we usually get 20 to 30 new members. Next. And then these are just some of the highlights from what happened this year. I saw recently a statistic that having Martha Stewart at our luncheon got us like 1 billion social media hits. So that was definitely well worth it. Next. She has brought the folks at her company because, of course, one of her things is gardening, over the Habitat area, which is in front of her old headquarters at the Sterley High Building, to have everybody volunteer. And then the other thing that we have are these affinity groups, so that if people aren't interested in participating just generally or in volunteering, there are things for them to do that are sort of closer to their hearts. So there is a science and stewardship group, and there is a arts and culture group, and there is a sports and athletic groups. And these are folks who run the marathon, or in the middle, we're on an art gallery tour that we set up for them, or brought their families and other friends and donors to the wet lab. Next. And this is our season coming up. So we just had the luncheon. We'll be doing another October gala. And then throughout the year, we have a series of committee events for combination of board members, business council, committee members, and then in-home receptions to meet new neighbors called Give Where You Live. We also do park tours and talks, and we'll be doing a bunch actually in Pier 57 in the year coming up. It's been really just enormously helpful for us to have this venue to be able to bring people to. And plans where we're either on the way or in the middle. We're working on a strategic plan with the Public Art Fund to help bring rotating public art to the park. We have a grant working with the trust to create an archive at Pier 40 with all of the documents that have been there in boxes for a very long time, and to digitize a lot of the historic and photographic archive. We're working on advocacy for capital funding for Pier 76 and the estuarium. And then we have an ongoing foundation grant for major donor support. And I think we're at the end. So thank you.
Tons of stuff to cover. That looks and sounds great. Thank you very, very much. Let's see if we have questions from anybody online. I do not see any hands. Anybody have any questions online? Aha. Wendy has noted that only 10 people have signed in so far. So please, I'll put Tom Fox, you're up first.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to compliment you. That's a pretty comprehensive approach to supporting the park. Bravo.
Tom, thanks so much. Again, please make sure everybody has signed into the attendance sheet. All righty, let's move along to our second topic on our agenda, which is the membership update. And thank you, Connie, for always being flexible and willing to swap months. I needed to remember to say that.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Since we have open seats on the council, the bylaws direct the membership committee to solicit for applications for new members, which we have been doing since the beginning of the year. To date, we have received one application. This application was recommended by the membership committee and the executive committee to be presented to you for consideration. This application came from P3, formerly known as Pier Park and Play Association. The application was distributed last week to all of our members. So at this time, I will ask the representative of P3 if you can give her a microphone, and you have 5 minutes to present. Thank you.
So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Joanna Laskus, and I'm here representing P3, the Pier Park and Playground Association. So many of you know that P3 is a nonprofit organization. We've operated at Pier 40 since 1997. We serve New York City youth through affordable, high-quality baseball and softball programs. Each year, we work with nearly 4,000 young people from across the city. And while we're rooted in Community District 2, our reach is citywide. Our mission is very straightforward. We want to ensure that every child, regardless of background, has access to structured, positive, and inclusive recreational opportunities. Our connection to Hudson River Park is not theoretical. It's daily, it's practical, and it's deeply embedded. As a long-term tenant at Pier 40, our programs depend directly on park operations, including field conditions, scheduling, safety policies, and long-term resiliency planning. We see firsthand how decisions made by the trust impact thousands of families who rely on the park as a place for recreation, development, and community. So we're here tonight seeking a seat on the advisory council because we want to be an active participant in the ongoing dialogue about the future of the park. We believe we can offer a valuable perspective as a high-volume youth-serving organization that is both operationally tied to the park and deeply connected to the surrounding community. Our organization brings a few key strengths to the table. First, longevity. We've been a part of Pier 40 since before the park itself was fully realized. This gives us a very unique perspective on the evolution of the park as well as its role in the city. Second, access and inclusion. Through scholarships and partnerships with schools and local leagues, we actively work to remove barriers and expand who gets to benefit from this wonderful public space. And thirdly, practical insight. Because we run year-round programming, we can provide grounded day-to-day feedback on how park policies and planning decisions affect real users, especially youth and families. So we're not coming to the council tonight with a single agenda, but rather a commitment to collaboration. We want to strengthen relationships with fellow organizations, we want to support the work of the trust, and we want to help ensure that Hudson River Park continues to serve as a vibrant, accessible resource for all New Yorkers. So thank you again for your consideration and for your continued stewardship of this wonderful public space.
Thank you very much. Before I ask if anyone has questions, I just wanted to share that the Village Community Boathouse, which their representative could not be here, but did send in an endorsement of the P3 application. So at this time, if anyone has a question in the room or online, please raise your hand so I can recognize you. Please. Oh, we need a
Microphone for you, and we need you to state your name.
It seems like such a natural. Why haven't you been on the committee?
Okay, please, but it's got to be into the microphone so it gets into the recording.
And who are
Alan
And identify
Taylor,
yourself.
And I'm just asking why this has not been, why you've not been a member before? Why now?
That's a great question. I assume that now, most recently, with the opportunity that was presented with an open seat, I don't know how often open seats come up on the advisory council, but certainly the timing seemed right from that perspective.
We do usually have one or two a year after we evaluate our attendance records, just so you know. We do, I believe, have one more open seat. So I'm just going to put the word out there right now. Anyone who is organization that might be interested, please download a copy of our application and submit it so that we can consider you at our next meeting. Anyone else have any questions? Or go ahead. Sorry.
It's actually for you, Susan. The bylaws say that not more than 20% of our membership can be tenants. Did you verify that?
I have verified that. Robert and I did a count today. We are entitled to have up to 10. P3 will be the 10th one. So yes, it is good. And so therefore, any applicants must not be tenants for the open seat at this time. And if that changes, we'll let you know. Any more questions? If not, is there any unwillingness to vote? Just so you know, this is a straight vote. because there is only one applicant for the one seat, you vote either to endorse, to not endorse, or you may abstain. So, okay, at this time, oops, that was your time up, by the way. Okay, so all those who wish to endorse the P3 application, please raise your hand. Okay. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, we could, considering the strong support, we'll do this by affirmation. So it's easier to say, is anyone up not endorsing this application? And please lower your hands unless you are not endorsing the application. Okay, I see no. You're not going to make this easy, are you? Okay, I see no hands not endorsing the application, and I see no hands in the room not endorsing the application. Is anyone abstaining from the vote? I see none. Therefore, P3 unanimously is our newest member. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
One more thing to announce. At the April meeting, we will be having an election for the 4 at-large members of the executive committee. We will accept nominations at that meeting, and we will be voting on those 4 members. So just a point of information. Thank you.
Okie dokie. We're rolling right along. Thank you very, very much. We're going to hand it off now. Robert, it's your turn. You want to start with Chris McGann?
Krista unfortunately has the flu today and is not coming, so I apologize. As you saw in the report, it's been a pretty quiet time period, so we're going to skip his report for now. I will, as I kick us off here, before I move into the trust report tonight, I want to take up on a moment to follow up on the conversation we had last month regarding ICE parking contract at Pier 40. I know we had guests here who were concerned about the issue. I'm not sure if everyone are still here, but I want to be able to do this. First, I want to say that we understand the concerns that have been raised. We have been talking to people, reading the many letters that we've received, and we get the fear and anxiety that learning about the contract has caused. We do take these comments very seriously. We committed, both last month and in other forums, we committed to conducting a thorough legal review when community member and elected officials asked the trust to examine whether the contract could be terminated before its expiration later this year. We retained outside counsel with deep experience in federal contracting and federal regulations to supplement our own legal review, and asked the team to examine the agreement itself and the federal rules that govern contracts between federal agencies and entities like the trust. For folks who may be new, let me just briefly recap some of the facts so that we're all on the same page for it, particularly for some folks who weren't at the last meeting. There's a large federal building on Hudson Street, 2 blocks away from Pier 40. The trust has had a parking contract with ICE at Pier 40 going back to the early 2000s. Pier 40 contains a very large public parking garage with more than 2,000 spaces. The contract with ICE allows a small number of vehicles to park within the overall larger facility. The trust entered into the current term in 2021 during the previous administration and at a different moment in the world. It is strictly a parking agreement, very similar to all our other garage customers. We've never observed ICE agents conducting enforcement activity in the park itself and have tracked down any rumors to the contrary, which we have confirmed have not taken place. And the lease agreement is set to expire later this year, and we've been clear that we will not renew the contract or enter into a new one. We've already made that commitment. Turning back to the question that we asked, based on legal review, this is a federal contract governed by federal procurement rules known as Federal Acquisition Regulation, FAR. I don't know if you say that as FAR or FAR. Under those rules, the authority to terminate the contract belongs solely with the federal government, in this case ICE, and not with the trust. Our attorneys carefully reviewed whether there's any legal pathway that allowed the trust to terminate the contract early. Their conclusion was clear. The trust does not have a legal mechanism to end the contract before its scheduled expiration. It is also important to explain why the trust cannot simply choose to stop honoring the contract regardless. As a governmental entity responsible for managing a major public park, the trust is required to comply with the law and the agreements it enters into. We cannot knowingly break a contract without a legal basis. Knowingly defaulting on a federal contract would violate the trust's responsibility as a government entity to meet its obligations and could affect the trust standing with federal agencies and potentially jeopardize future federal agreements or funding that support all types of work in the park now or in the future. The consequences could ultimately affect the public resources that support Hudson River Park, from environmental restoration to safety improvements to construction or even possibly disaster recovery. Importantly, even if we were to have a valid legal basis for the contract dispute, such as failure of the federal government to pay, the trust would be required to continue to provide parking while it appears through a formal federal process, undermining the intent of the request to end the contract early. I know the conclusion may be frustrating or disappointing to some people, and I want to acknowledge that. We get it. Despite not being the answer that many people here tonight wanted, we want to be transparent about the law allows us to do. The trust takes seriously the concerns people have raised and the importance of ensuring that Hudson River Park remains welcoming and safe for everyone who uses it. Even though we cannot legally end the contract early, we're continuing to look at constructive steps we can take to support park users and ensure that they feel informed and prepared, including working with immigrant rights organizations, provide resources and training for park tenants, sports leagues, and other community partners. Immigration advocacy organizations are obviously very busy and in demand at the moment. We're working with some of our elected officials to try to identify the right partners. We certainly are open to ideas if folks have ones of folks who might be able to say provide training or help some of the groups that are in the park understand their own legal rights and responsibilities. With that, I'm going to pause and see if there are questions from the advisory council.
If you have a question online, please raise your hand in the room as well. I know Susan does.
Can you please discuss what one of the consequences is that the trust would have to fund any parking? Can you just please elaborate on that?
So I think it's a pretty standard piece of a lot of contracting, which is that we would ultimately have to make the contracting partner whole. So that's the consequence of it. So if they had to relocate or do some of the other things, we would have to be able to pay essentially damages, which would ultimately be decided through both the federal appeals process and then possibly federal court. It would be long and likely an expensive legal battle. And at the moment, our attorneys have been very clear that we do not have a legal basis by which to launch that. So we would almost certainly fail.
You said something to me that really resonated, that ICE cannot operate in the park. Early on when we had a safety meeting, that they have to be outside the park, that they have no jurisdiction within the park.
So Hudson River Park, there are two types of spaces when it comes to law enforcement, and that's ICE, but all other law enforcement as well. So it's not just limited to ICE. There are public spaces that includes all parks, Hudson River Park, which also includes things like streets, plazas, anywhere in New York City that is outside that the public can get to is considered a public space. Law enforcement does not need anyone's permission to operate in those spaces. There are private spaces. In this instance, those would be things like homes, businesses, or for an entity like the park, trust offices, maintenance facilities, places where the public cannot just walk in and access, where you need special access to do. The trust is in line with both city and state policies for access to trust-controlled spaces, so offices, maintenance facilities, those types of things. We require judicial warrants for non-local law enforcement. We also do work with local law enforcement on exactly what those needs are. You cannot just walk in. Law enforcement can just walk into our offices and start rooting around. As is, I think, pretty common. For public spaces in the park, they are public spaces. We do not have the ability to, say, rebuff any law enforcement from taking place in public spaces any more than anyone can on a sidewalk or any public park in New York City. I want to be clear on this, that there is no more risk of immigration enforcement in Hudson River Park than there is on any city street or in any city park or any city plaza anywhere else in New York City. We are all in the same boat. It is the same way, frankly, with all law enforcement or criminal actions. Anything that can and happen on city streets can and has and probably at some point in the past happened in Hudson River Park. We are part of the city fabric. We cannot be separated from the rest of the city in that we are a public space. I believe we have 56 formal entrances. We cannot close. We do not have a wall to keep people out. It is a public space in New York City, and we're all in the same boat together.
Pierce 40 specifically. So, because there was that incident that happened, there really wasn't an incident, but there was a rumor going around.
So at Pier 40, and this is important because it is a mixed facility, there are the public spaces that count as public open space. Those are the fields, that's the donut around the field, there's a perimeter walkways, the rooftop fields. Those are considered open spaces, right? You can just walk onto those during park open hours. There are trust spaces, including specifically trust offices, trust maintenance facilities. There are other tenants, P3, that have the ability to deny access for folks, and that is where things like judicial warrant requirements can kick in. It's in those private spaces. The public spaces like the fields are in the same as if you are in the center of Central Park or Washington Square Park or any Union Square, are all in the same boat.
I have a question, but I do want to say that though I understand there are boundaries of what they can and can't do, I think we've all seen recently that they are not operating as a credible federal agency right now. So they're not obviously adhering to any boundaries. So all the boundary that you just said, I don't know if that would necessarily apply to them right now. Not for you to answer. I'm just saying we're in a different scenario here right now. We're operating under different rules that we didn't know that we were operating before. But I do want to ask, and I said this before, but just for the record, that CB4 did vote on a letter asking that the trust reevaluate their contract early. And I think you guys did receive that, correct? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
But I have a really small logistical question. Have you guys witnessed or monitored any activity of the ice trucks actually physically going in or out, or are they just there and trucks? What are they? Oh, okay, cars. What cars? Have you seen any? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So,
we gathering dust there,
yeah,
or is it real?
Our staff are at Pier 40. We certainly have have an eye on what's going on there. The question whether or not they're gathering dust, I don't think we are monitoring individual cars in that way. The vehicles do come and go. What I will say is that we have not seen, our staff have not seen any change in use of those spaces in 2 decades, right? And some people, there are staff in the trust who go back from before the trust existed, who have not seen any change in the 2 decades that ICE have been parking at the pier, including recently. It is something that we continue to monitor, if the question is, are they active? I assume so, yes. But they are part of a much larger parking garage part of it. So I wouldn't be able to point to individual cars or vans or anything like that, but yes.
Tom.
Yes, just quickly. When does the permit expire, Rob? It seems like there's a lot of concern, but if the permit ends this year, when does it end?
The current contract ends at the end of June.
The end of June. So we're talking about 2 months from now. Okay. Yeah, it's really not given the legal morass, it's not really functional to pursue that path.
Yeah. In the conversations with the attorneys, they seem clear that the appeals process, the administrative appeals process, which you have to go through before you can even go to court, even if there was a legal basis for contract dispute, which they did not feel there was, would almost certainly take longer than is left on the current contract.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I mean, I, for one, will be really happy when we get to the end of June, and I see no reason that the trust should have to pay any money to ICE for any reason. So, penalty, legal, whatever, we shouldn't give them 1/4 inch more than they currently have. With that, do you have more in your report?
Yes. All right. I will try to be as brief as I can, as always. I'll try to whiz through it. I'll be extra brief this time. As we've discussed at previous advisory council meetings, there is a large scale construction happening at Pier 40. We are working very closely with the users of Pier 40 on this. It is going to affect every section of the building at some point. Within this first wave, we do have construction. I want to call out Village Community Boathouse. I'm not sure if we have anyone with us today. We were able to work in their space, work with them to do work in their space in the off season. It does involve moving all of their belongings and all of the boats and all of that out of the way so we can do the work and the structural work and sprinkler work in the space. We'll have to go back at some point in the future, but we were able to get in and get out before their season started. We appreciate their flexibility and working with us. We will say it is also will be coming to P3. We are also working with P3 on the scheduling for that and trying to work with our construction team to make it as tight as a scheduling process as we can, understanding that we don't always know what the construction is until some of this repair work starts. It's going to be in the building for approximately the next 2 years and is moving around. I will also say with this, we are starting in the spring season, so that is April 1. We will be redoing rooftop field number 1, including the membrane under it. We don't know the condition of the roof under that section, so we won't know exactly how long it will be until we have taken up the current field, which we cannot do until it is closed for construction. We are coordinating very closely with our field users on that, who have been gracious in accommodating the shift. They are also, I think, perhaps self-interested in the concept of the new field that will be going back, given that the old one was well past its usable life, I believe was original and has been there for 20 plus years, and was quite worn. So will be working with that. We do believe that we're going to be able to get it accomplished within the spring season, and it will not spill over into the summer, but we won't fully know the state of construction until we are able to access the structural pieces under the turf itself. We'll have some minor probes that we are trying to do in the coming weeks to prepare to make sure that we are doing that to the best of our ability and we are as prepared as possible, but you never know until you fully open it. I want to share exciting news. The trust has awarded the contract to PMY Construction to replace the outdated play equipment at Pier 51. The existing playground, and so including the water play features and the river run, will remain unchanged. The new equipment manufactured by the same company that produced the play structures at Pier 25, so not the Sturgeon playground, not the Science playground, but the other playground on Pier 25, will offer similar play experience for children of all abilities. We're expecting construction to start in just a few weeks. And I want to thank former State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel, now Borough President, for allocating $100,000 of state funding before he left office, and now former Borough President Mark Levine, our now New York City Comptroller, for allocating $250,000 to this project last year. We are always appreciative of our elected officials and their support for renovating and maintaining the park. For public safety, and this is just my shout out for Chris McGann, with the explosion of users Hudson River Park sees in the warm months. And if anyone was here on those that 80-degree day we had there, and I stepped out of the Pier 40 office and almost got mowed down by the river of humans, this is a time where we start to see an increase in things like petty thefts, people who are incredibly comfortable and feel incredibly safe in the park and leave their bag 40 feet away, 100 feet away, around the corner, and are not paying attention to it. We are, as I said earlier, we are part of the city fabric. You would not leave your bag in Times Square, in Father Duffy Square, on the steps in Father Duffy Square, and walk to the other side of Times Square to take a photo and expect it to still be there. We are public space. If you have our field user in particular, we strongly encourage everyone, please remind your users, remind your parents, remind your coaches. There is no substitute for a parent, a coach, a volunteer telling people, and students in particular, to watch their bags. There's no sign that can make up for it. I have had these meetings. People have said, maybe we could put up signs that say, watch their valuables. They are big. They are orange. They're on all 4 sides. They're at every single entrance to the staircase for the field at Pier 40. You still have to actually tell people to do it. So there's no amount of that anyone can say, please look at this. So we encourage everyone to follow up for it. Do not leave your valuables unattended. The advisory council has asked us to update you guys on a couple of things. Work on Gateway has resumed after their disruption of some of their funding. The funding has returned. and they are going on. I shared with the advisory council, and they recently that Gateway was presenting last week to CB4 to some modifications to their work plan that trigger, I believe it's the 14th reevaluation of the NEPA as they have continued to refine their working structures. This one does in fact impact spaces in the Hudson River Park. The expanded cofferdam and some changes in the tunnel alignment because of the long buried piles that they are removing. If you want to learn more about it, CB4's WPE, I believe their meeting, the recording of the meeting is online, and you can learn more about there. There is a comment period that Gateway is hosting. I shared that notification with the advisory council members if you would like to submit a public comment. Gateway, I will say, has been working very closely with Hudson River Community Sailing about potential impacts on their boating operations, which are just south, and they are continuing to try to be as minimally disruptive as possible. With that, there are going to be changes that people will see as they move across between the bulkhead and across the highway to the pit on the east side of the highway. There will be a moving, the bikeway and pedestrian walkway will move. They have presented on that plan in the past. They are regularly will share information if you want to sign up on their website for their email notifications so you can understand what to expect. As shared in past reports, the Battery Park City Resiliency Project has begun initial site work and utility relocation in the southernmost portion of the park. So it is below the southernmost basketball court in that space just above Chamber Street in the park. It has narrowed the esplanade in that section. We are continuing to work with them to refine their larger construction plans. That includes for the encroachment into the park over off the north side of the bulkhead along Battery Park City, as well as for the refined curve that is going to connect that section of their walkway there in that park to ours. And so it is an expansion. The Trust Board of Directors is expected to issue its consent to the easement at an upcoming meeting. This is much like we had to do for Gateway because it is a permanent structure that will be in the park. As a reminder, Battery Park City has committed to contribute funds towards the construction of estuarium as mitigation for their construction, and that construction is going to last approximately 4 years. As the designs and methods are refined and closer being finalized, the trust will encourage BPCA to come to another advisory council meeting to provide an update on their construction plans and what people can expect to see on the ground. The one other topic that I know that you guys have asked for an update on is Sail Forth 250. That is America's 250 and Sail Forth, which includes the boat parade and aerial review. Those plans with New York City are continuing to be refined. We are continuing to work. I was actually just meeting with Sail Forth today about locations in the park for where they may be able to dock boats. They are looking only at a handful at this point, which includes Pier 25. They will be at Pier 86, which is the Intrepid, certainly at the Manhattan Cruise Terminal, which I believe is the Navy's base, much like where they are for the annual Fleet Week, as well as possibility at Pier 97. The depth in parts of the park are reasonably shallow, so some of the tallest ships are not able to dock at these piers, so will likely be Class B, some of the secondary ships that are participating as part of the parade. They have not yet made those assignments. We're still sort of working through with them on exactly sort of what the requirements are and what fits. Tammy, you have a question?
So how many berths might we have as a whole for historic ships? I would just want to make sure that we are not, beyond having the conversations to support our human-powered boating, which is really important. We, of course, as a advisory council, want to be knee-deep in everything possible with historic ships for this one opportunity to really show off the park. So how many berthings are there?
So that's a great question. How big are the ships that you are bringing?
I think that's the question for you to answer. We can do X number of ships at this size. We can do X number at this size. I mean, seriously, it's not that I'm bringing, but it's what you have to offer.
This was a question. This was a question that we, Sail Forth and I actually had this afternoon. They have some concepts of what they are envisioning. They are distributing ships throughout the harbor. It is a very complicated assignment process of what requirements are, what landside requirements are, how big a shift is, what's the draft is, what its order in the parade. There's a whole lot of things that they are going into it. I'm currently waiting for them to provide us more information about what they need, so that we can try to see how we can be best accommodating. We're going to try to be as flexible as possible as we can, but we kind of need from them to understand sort of what they are looking for. Like one big ship, takes up more space than series of smaller ships, so it's dependent. Mary, I see you have the microphone down there.
Turn it on. Oh. I did notice my voice wasn't coming through right away. So I think we can probably name the piers where there is space, even if it's not how many ships. Right?
Yeah, so I did mention, so they are currently exploring Pier 25 and Pier 97.
Okay, not 26,
Not 26.
even though there's fendering there.
They are borrowing our fendering.
Oh, okay. Do you, I know you said you're talking about this and just talked about it today, but do you know when it will be known? Because I would love to be able to plan
Me too.
programming in association
I
with
would
it.
also love
Okay.
more than anything. What I love for more information about both the boats and the landside planning from New York City, which includes for viewing for the boat parade. As soon as I have more information that I can share, I will. As soon as I have real information, I would be thrilled. But I do not currently have anything more to share.
Okay, and maybe I'll just say for people who might not know, the Macy's fireworks are all on the East River this year. They're having twice as many barges as before, but it's all going to be on the East River. They're going to have 2 barges of fireworks at Jersey City. So there will be fireworks viewable from Hudson River Park, but not the Macy's fireworks.
Yeah, the Jersey City ones are usually not as visible because they're a little bit further south in the harbor. But
It's not a bad view from Pier 25.
okay. Don't tell too many people that. Mike, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think they are trying to make an announcement in the next couple weeks. So with Southforth, that's in our conversations with them. I think we have 3 that are identified at our pier. One is a large one. And there's discussion about potentially bringing in a barge. So it pushes a little bit farther out off of the end of our pier just for the safety of the tall ship that's there. But, I think hopefully they've been telling us that they're trying to get where they can release the names of at least the ships that they've identified spaces for by the end of the month.
Thank you.
And I think they're working with EDC on putting a spud barge at Pier 92 also. I don't know how far that is.
Yeah, that is, they're having issues with this structure of the pier up there.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I know it's not good. Can I also ask about the Battery Park City project? Do you have any answer yet about how much of the Pier 25 marina is going to be closed?
That is a good question that I did not prepare for, and I should have. Let me take that back and try to get some clarity from the team on exactly where we stand with that.
Mitigation, Battery Park City, that's what's Pier 26.
So the question from Daniel here is the mitigation funding, and that is for the estuarium. So that will be, the estuarium is between 25 and 26, just north of the science playground and the construction yard there. Brian?
Hi, Robert. Thank you. Just a question. Is the Park Trust going to be commenting on the initial draft EIS for sites K and site 3HB on West 34th and 11th and West 35th and 11th, just in terms of the scale of these projects? Call for a cumulative total of roughly 4,000 new residential units, possibly housing over 8,000 people. And it is within a block of Hudson River Park, which is going to create more usage at the park within, relative close proximity to Pier 76. I don't know if the Park Trust ever is involved in this process of scoping, or can you comment on that? Or
We have on rare occasion, submitted comments that the advisory council asked us, I believe some time ago, to comment on, I believe it was the Hudson Yards one for it. I think these projects are outside of the 1 block radius, which means they're outside of our air rights selling district.
Right.
We are not currently planning to submit a comment on these projects.
Okay, thank you. I just think the park will see significant increased usage from new residential of that scale in the immediate proximity to the park. So I just wanted to flag it.
Definitely. It is, it does, I think, speak to, it is important when to speak to our ongoing effort to try to fund the redevelopment of Pier 76 and, building that out as permanent public open space. It is a good time to say, we are doing that. It is also, we are working on the plan for 29 to 44th Street, which right now we are focused on the areas between 81 and 83 and Pier 84, along with some of the renovations onto Pier 84 itself, while working our way down for the rest, that 29th to 44th Street area, which includes the areas just down the hill from where you're talking about.
Yes, thank you.
Tom.
Sorry, I think as a matter of practice, it's not a bad idea for the park to comment on the environmental impact of projects like this. If there are 8,000 people going to be within a 2-block proximity of the park and space is already especially limited for active recreation, that would be noted and be helpful, even though it's outside your 1-block area. Originally, most people saw it as a 3-block in area of influence that would impact the park. And that would be more, even though you can't transfer real estate there, the population there is going to put pressure on the resource. So I think it's reasonable to consider commenting on these types of large-scale developments myself.
Yep, definitely. Thank you for that. Let me take it back. I have not looked at the EIS on it, so I'm happy to take it back and ask our team to take a look.
Thank you.
I will continue to plow ahead. I have a couple more.
One last question.
Oh, one last question. Okay.
We're losing all of the bike racks that are over by Stuyvesant when Battery Park City moves forward with the next step of the plan. They have moved some of it further south into Battery Park City. Have you found a location perhaps or worked with DOT to make sure there's adequate biking infrastructure a little bit further north? Because we are the dead zone for bike access from the west side, kind of north from Chambers. So is there any hope that we could do some temporary locations?
We've not, when we've looked before, we've not found a location within Hudson River Park, that was not immediately off the Esplanade, which is something that we have historically avoided doing because it encourages bike riding on the Esplanade itself. Last I do know, Battery Park City was working extensively with state DOT and city DOT on their plans. So I'm happy to take that back and try to follow up to see exactly where those conversations landed. And we're happy to try to be helpful to the way that extent we can, without encouraging folks to, putting a rack on the Esplanade where people are going to ride where we don't want them to. Okay. I'll repeat it. Where are they going to be going in the 2019? So the question here from Connie was that for Gateway's impacts, where will park vehicles and others be transiting through the area by their construction site? And the answer to that is that we have worked very closely with Gateway to make sure that the bikeway is maintained, that it's a part of that swinging action, is that the bikeway will continue to maintain, our vehicles will still be able to transit it. The park vehicles, golf carts, Motreks, plow equipment, in order to service some of that equipment that services that northern section of the park on the other side of it comes from the south. And so that is like all of the trash pickup from the park. That includes from Pier 97 all the way down, all of that ultimately exits through a compactor at Pier 40. In order for us to be able to service those some of those northern sections of the park, we need to be able to transit it. We've worked with them to be able to maintain access through this. It is going to be a bit of a turn there that they have worked on. It's going to involve slowing down. It's going to be slightly slower to transit that section of the park for safety, which when it comes to passing through a construction zone is maybe not a bad thing. Okay. Councilmember Brewer, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Did you have a question?
No, I'm
Okay.
just coming from an event and going to another one. So thank you, though. I'm listening.
Thank you. Thank you always for joining us.
Thank you.
In February, we hosted our 5th annual ESMP Technical Advisory Committee meeting to review our 2025 progress on the ESMP, on a discussion of priorities and projects for 2026. We welcomed our TAC experts on all 3 management areas, representing organizations like Hudson River Foundation, the Army Corps, DEC, New York City Planning, CUNY, New York City Parks, Billy and Oyster Projects, New York State, the Department of State, Little Island, NYU, Downtown Boathouse, the Intrepid Museum, and many others. With this, one of the important things is that because of the funding from Congressman Nadler through NOAA for the next sort of habitat enhancement design project, we were able to begin some of the discussions on what that would look like with the TAC on some of their things, and we are currently kind of considering looking at the nearshore area between piers 94 and 96 for sort of a different thing of it. Our TAC had a lot of very good ideas about potential labs and partners and habitat features that would be worthy of exploring as we start to begin to shape this project with our lead consultant, which is going to be Moffitt and the Nickel. Well, we also talked about various areas of our science research, evaluation metrics, participant retention, ways to share data, maximizing use of the park for science, and sort of inviting people in on ways that we can better work with our partners in the area. We are particularly for the estuarine sanctuary, it's part of a much larger ecosystem. It is 400 water acres of Hudson River Park, of a much larger river and a much larger harbor. So it's really important that we are able to connect those pieces and help play that role in fostering that sort of launching of that research from here in Hudson River Park. I'm going to skip some of my other ones. I will say we have Submerge coming up. It is going to be on Friday, May 15th for school groups, and Saturday, May 16th. Slots for field trips on May 15th are going fast. So if you have a school group that you're interested in coming, we are happy to host them. Last year, I think we had 4,000 kids come through despite some rain. So this year, we're trying to accommodate a few more. We're expecting even more exhibitors. I think we're adding like a third more exhibitors. Please spread the word. We are also, if not, come on Saturday, May 16th. This is our annual Science Marine Festival. It is spectacular. I'm going to skip a number of these other ones. I will say, since our last update, I'm going to split this in 2 directions. One, we had a massive, massive snowstorm. Folks may remember, you've forgotten since the warm weather here. I want to give a shout out to our operations team, which did an extraordinary job digging us out. It is very, very difficult, particularly with that much snow, when there's not a lot of places to do it. This time, the storm back in January came and froze quickly, which posed its own challenges to do it. This one came and got warm, which means the snow was incredibly heavy for our team, and it takes a lot to shovel it out. So we are always eternally grateful for our teams. I will say, I'm in the last of the year, the team did appreciate we bought new cots in order to be able to get our team safely in, to be able to do our dig out. There is a team that has to stay overnight in Pier 40. This time there were 2 nights they actually had to stay in order to maintain the base that allows us to keep Pier 40 active and mobile so that our equipment can get out to be able to do the work using the bikeway. So we are incredibly grateful for them. On the flip of that, I will say, our operations team is actively coordinating with all our departments to begin our warm weather prep. I got my first complaint that the water fountains are not on. It's time of year we always get them. We turn on water fountains towards mid-April when the threat of frost has passed. If we get some of the freezes in those early April freezes, they would bust all of the equipment in there and all of the valves, which means that they would then be offline for longer. So we do wait. We turn on water features that people can get in. So there's particularly our fountains and spray features at the end of Memorial Day. We don't want people going in them too early, end up getting too cold, particularly for some of these in April and early May. Dog runs are also go on very early, so the dog runs will go on soon for cleaning purposes, sort of as soon as we believe that the threat of frost is past. We are also then start beginning things like re-energizing the many, many miles of irrigation throughout the park. This seems like I'm always saying this. We are performing our annual biannual parkwide and bikeway light audit this week. And this is, we do our whole things. We know that there is a section still out in the village here along the bikeway that we've reported under previous light audits. CTOT has been steadily making progress along it. It has gotten smaller. They have been working with a contractor. As I understand, there's a larger problem with some of the connections along the way. So they have been making progress on it. As always, if you do see a light out or something that you think needs to be addressed, please always give us a shout, call the operations desk, send us an email at info, send me an email. We do try to address them regularly, not just waiting for the light audits. But this is one that we try to do, particularly going into the warm months, to make sure that everything is up in there. With that, I will stop and see if there are any additional questions. And I skipped a bunch of topics, all of which I prepared to answer questions on.
I'm going to say Holy Christmas. That was an awful lot of talking. Or Holy St. Patty's Day. So thank you so much. Does anybody have any other questions for Robert? Okay, awesome. Next, we move to the Manhattan Cruise Terminal Plan. We had a presentation by EDC and Tara Dawson, her team, last month, which was comprehensive. Many questions were raised. And the conversation, because it was a long meeting, somewhat like this evening, was that we would go over the CB4 response and have a discussion on the master plan and whether we want to do a resolution now or not, that would go to the Hudson River Park Trust and EDC. So I'm going to pass this to Leslie and take it away.
Thank you, Tammy. So I guess this has been a topic for a few months now, or maybe years, about the Manhattan Cruise Terminal. And I'll just tell you guys where Community Board 4 is at over this long process. Just for a little bit of background, for years, actually, CB4 has been pushing for the EDC to install electric shore power at the Manhattan Cruise Terminal. And that was our singular objective. And that's where this started. It was pushing for electric shore power every single day, every single month, every meeting. And we were effectively working towards that through negotiation and planning with EDC to the point where there was finally a commitment accompanied with an actual press release that electric shore power will be coming to the Manhattan Cruise Terminal. So we all said, hooray, we're getting shore power. This is great. Let's move forward. Soon after, this is where we have the pivot here and why we're here today. Soon after, the EDC came back to us, CB4, and said that that plan was no longer live, even after the press release that we're going to get shore power by, X year. But that plan was now off the table. And instead, the city reassessed the space in totality. So it's not just the cruise terminal, just so everyone knows, we're also talking about Pier 92. So there's a very big footprint here. So it was relayed to us, the reason for that was any renovation to those piers, including the shore power that we wanted in there and that we agreed upon and that was going in, would not be feasible without structural and costly upgrades. And because of that, the EDC said, we can't give you shore power without, upgrading the whole thing. And if we're going to upgrade the whole thing, we're just going to do a total renovation. It's going to be a full master plan. So what we were concerned about, the first thing we were concerned about was that this was going to push off shore power. So instead of having shore power now in the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to wrap it up in this big master plan, billions of dollars, and we'll get shore power 10, 20 years down the road, which really alarmed us. And we wrote many letters to that effect. But this is where we are now. Instead of just installing shore power, we're looking at this huge master plan. And now there was about half a dozen public meetings regarding what this plan would look like before they released it. There were meetings that the EDC had on the piers, a lot of public sessions. CB4 had public meetings on this, a lot of public comment, down to the nitty gritty of what we want to see, what we don't want to see. I mean, there must have been, 7 or 8 letters. And I'm looking at Sally because she's on our Waterfront Parks and Environment Committee as well. We, just so you know what our asks were, what CB4 asks were, and this was a running list over months. We obviously wanted the infrastructure for shore power. We wanted public access to the waterfront. If anyone knows what that looks like now, it's been fenced off since 9/11 and deemed a security risk. No one can go in there. We wanted that all taken down. We wanted public access to the waterfront, including green open space, whether that was on street level, whether that was rooftop, whether that was pier top, whatever it was. We wanted more and more green space. We wanted new traffic planning for drop off and pickup, including removing the giant concrete ramps that is now fronting the whole footprint. If you know, there are these huge concrete ramps that go up and down. That's also blocking any view or access. We wanted that taken down and a better plan for cars, buses, everything that you see going in and out of the Manhattan Cruise Terminal. We wanted widening bike lanes and pedestrian paths, and we wanted seamless connections with the Hudson River Park Trust properties, north and south. And we were working with the trust to kind of get that wording right and get that included. We also asked for net zero energy for not just the terminals but the other structures, including solar, other green energies. That was a big priority with us as well. We wanted an accessible public bathroom on the footprint there too. And we wanted, and listen, there were other smaller asks, but I'm giving you the big ones. We wanted connection to the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood to the east, because we really wish to have that new open space accessible to the neighborhood and not just isolated there for the visitors and the cruise traffic. So we wanted the neighborhood connected and stitched together in that way. So this is where we are now. The master plan, they came back with it, the EDC, and it included most all of CB4's requests as it related to the footprint of the terminal itself. I think what I want to hit on, though, the most contentious point of the plan that the EDC presented was that it included extension of the piers. The piers themselves were extended in the plan, which then triggered that it entered the federal navigable channels. And that's where our board had severe concerns, especially the effects on the estuary, the environment in general. What did that mean? What did that mean to the environment? What did that mean to the neighborhood? This was connected to a federal request. So really just Congressman Nadler's office and the congressman himself was kind of holding the cards with this. And so, we took comments from all water users, big and small, as well as all the stakeholders, and also asked guidance from Congressman Nadler's office. We did not, just to be on the record, we did not approve nor disapprove this part of the plan, but instead we really didn't know enough to approve or disapprove this part of the plan. So this is where we are now. Everyone has seen the master plan. You saw what EDC presented last time. CB4 has a lot of concerns about this plan for sure. A whole list of environmental considerations. Environmental budgeting, quite frankly, whether the EDC is going to follow through on their promises. Sometimes they give it all in the plan, and then when it really comes down to it, we don't see everything we asked for. They just want us to maybe say yes, and then unfortunately pull back later. So I think that's about it where we are. I was a few weeks ago informed that Congressman Nadler did put in the request that he had to do in Congress because it's on a 2-year timetable to allow for the extension of those piers. And I don't want to talk for Congressman Nadler's office, but I don't think he approves or disapproves it. I think he just wanted to, open the channels, no pun intended, just to see what would be possible. But he can, that office can definitely speak for themselves. So that is where we are. The other element of this is Pier 92. So Pier 92 is not part of the Manhattan Cruise Terminal, whereas it does not have active ships coming in and out, but it is a dilapidated, condemned pier. And the EDC wants to see that as an economic engine in some regard. And their idea, which CB4 is not necessarily against, and I think we've talked about it here, is a blue highway. So they want to see that as far as a blue highway. And we understand that getting trucks off the roads, maybe getting packages delivered and freights delivered by waterway instead of trucks will help the environment to a certain extent, or at least the controlled environment on the streets, and will clear up our streets. I know that the plan is, there's no details on the plan for EDC. I think this is what they're thinking about. And the one concern, well, we have many concerns, but the one big concern is where all these bikes going to go. And this is what we shared with Hudson River Park Trust, which I think shares our concerns that now, where are all these micro mobility, where are they going? If they're going to be packages dropped off at Pier 92, is everyone getting on bikes going up and down the bikeway there? And that is a big, big, big concern with us. Like, what is the plan? And we know that EDC is working with DOT on that. So we have not seen anything about that. So that's where we're at now. I think it's in the one master plan stage. The other thing that we asked for or was concerned about is that they only presented one master plan. This is it. This is the master plan. There wasn't plan A, plan B, plan C, or if this works and this doesn't work, we can swap. It was just one plan moving forward. So I don't know if you guys remember the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, when they did their big resiliency plan, they had like 5 or 6 different plans. If this doesn't work, we'll use this, this, and this. This was a little different, and I think that concerned us as well. It looked like a little bit of all or nothing. So I would love to take any questions, but that's where I think we circulated our letters I think 1 or 2 months ago, or we submitted them so you guys can see where CB4's letters were. We had a lot of them. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for CB4. Tom?
Yes. Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks, Tom.
And I did attend the CB4 meeting about Manhattan Cruise Terminals, and fortunately for me, I was away sailing in the Caribbean. But while I was there, I came up with an idea, something unusual. And I'd like to, if I could share my screen, show you what I think an option could be that the advisory council might consider. Because one of my major concerns about, well, a number of concerns about the project, but it's going to be in the river. That's the other thing. It's going to be actually take up 9 acres of the Hudson River Estuarine Sanctuary. They're moving it out over the river, and that's why they have to move the piers out. So if you could let me share my screen for a second, Madam Chair.
Tom, you should be able to try it.
Go ahead and try it, and if not, I can make you a co-host.
Excuse me?
Go
Go ahead
try
and
it.
try.
Try.
Okay.
And then I do need you to speak just a touch louder. Your dulcet tones are somewhat hard to hear. I know it's rare that I would ever ask, but could you speak
Right.
up a little bit?
Well, this better? Can you hear me better now?
It's about the same.
About the same. Okay. I try to speak a little louder.
We
How do
can
I
hear
share
you.
the screen here? Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. How do I share the screen, Robert?
So there should be a bottom
Share on the
button on the
bottom.
bottom
Yeah, I got
of
it.
the
Thank you.
screen that says share,
Thank you.
and then you have to pick the window.
There we
Oh,
go.
There you are.
Um,
We can see it now.
Wonderful. Let me get rid of this because I had that microphone problem. This is what the Port Authority is proposing. And what they're doing is building this large structure out over the waterfront. You can see it comes out here. So they're going to platform or landfill this section of the river and build this large structure on top of it. Pier 92, as you see, they want to do last mile blue highway, and I believe that really works. They're going to remove Pier 90, which is the pier in the middle. So they're only going to have two piers. And Pier 88, which is the one to the south, they're putting, as you notice, a lot of green amenities. I'm having trouble controlling this thing. A lot of green amenities, those are already there. That's the park. But they're including green amenities on top of the piers and at the water's edge. What I'm suggesting is that we look at moving the entire thing back over the highway. Think of Weill Cornell and the Hospital for Special Surgery over the FDR Drive. It could look the same as that big glass, interesting thing, but move it over the highway instead of over the river. This way, you don't have the destruction of 9 acres of the Hudson River Estuarine Sanctuary. You can daylight, if you will, the Hudson River Park. Instead of having a building over it, the building would be over the highway. And the inboard, and again, it just pushes the whole structure back from 52nd to 47th Street. You look at the other side of the street here, who are you bothering? If you put it above the highway here, and all of these ramps and everything go down, the whole Hudson River Park is daylighted. It's all open to the water. And everything, as they're planning, is on the second level. And if you look north, it's the same thing. On the inboard side, you're not blocking views. And all of this mass would be over the highway. So, and the highway is about 140 feet wide at this point. And lastly, there's a whole number of reasons why this makes sense. It wouldn't require the destruction of 9 acres of the Estuarine Sanctuary because it's protected by New York State DEC, and we don't even know if they can build out there. So that's a whole delay we're talking about. Route 9A is under redesign, and it could accommodate this kind of a modification. It has happened in the state. There is precedent on the east side. There are no residential buildings inboard, so those blocks will be viewed. It's easier to connect to the FDR, to the Hudson River Park with DeWitt Clinton because it butts right up against DeWitt Clinton. You don't even need a bridge, very minor bridge, to get people through the terminal down to the waterfront. So it increases access to the Hudson River Park and the connectivity between the two. The piers wouldn't need to be extended. The only reason they're being extended is because they're filling in 9 acres of the river. The ships can fit if they're not filling the 9 acres of the river in. So it takes away that navigation concern that the navigation community has about this proposal. And it opens the.
Tom, do you have any images by any chance?
No, this is my first shot across the bow. I will have images by next month, by our next month's meeting. But I want to, and I'll just wrap it up here. You could get into it and out of it from either the north or southbound lanes. Right now, they're planning it out over the water, so you can only get on from the southbound lanes. So it creates these traffic problems on the street that wouldn't be there if it was directly above the street, could be accessed either northbound or southbound, and it was wide enough as the street is for cars to turn around so they could exit either north or southbound. So it would solve a lot of the traffic problems on the street. And it might actually be less expensive to build if it's built over the land. Lastly, cruise companies around the world, cities around the world are stopping large cruise ships from coming in. Venice, Amsterdam, Barcelona, Juneau, Alaska now have banned the mega ships. The new operators may be moving towards smaller ships. There's a link here, which I'll put on our website. The Norwegian Cruise Lines has a new class of ships. They're 3,500 passengers. Of the 8,000 passenger ships that Royal Caribbean use, which they're planning to have 3 come in at a time. And since they move everybody in one day, that would be 48,000 people moving in and out of the terminal one day, is kind of preposterous in terms of scale. It's over the top. Most cities are moving passenger ship terminals out from the center city because of their impact. So I would like the advisory council to allow me just some time to work on this idea so that there is a plan B, if you will, Leslie, that there's a plan B that we come forward with, that how about this type of approach, which minimizes the environmental impact on the park, on the estuary, and takes space that's really dead space over a highway and uses it for public good. You could have the same amount of public open space on the top of the piers. It wouldn't diminish the amount of open space being added. So I'd ask that people be
So
willing to
Tom,
consider
you're
that.
asking that we don't do a resolution today, that you come back in either April or May, or April or June, I just can't remember which months we're meeting in. And you'll have something to kind of at least sketch-wise show us at that point?
Yes.
All right. And by then you'll have the information on whether you think the city and state would have to eminent domain the other side of the road, and where you mean for the traffic that's not coming into the cruise terminal to go, and shore power and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, the cruise terminal is elevated above the roadway, so nothing is changing at the surface level. The entire thing is elevated. It's in the air, it's floating, as it would
Wouldn't
be.
it then be taller than the building that they're currently proposing, which is, I believe they said 4 stories?
Yeah, it'd be the same height. Because the building that they're currently proposing is currently elevated. So it's just taking the entire thing and moving it sideways. It's already
Well, I
elevated.
for one certainly look forward to seeing it. There's a couple questions in the room.
Sure. And I'll
Thank you.
cut my screen
I-
sharing.
We just, Assemblymember Glick is pretty opposed to this project because of the concerns about the impact on the river. And the number one concern is we don't have any dimensions yet other than this 9 acres. So if someone else has the actual square footage, height, like specific dimensions of the building and the platform that they're proposing, we haven't seen anything and we've asked, but none have been shared with us unless I'm missing something.
And that would be critical to putting together a credible representation. So those kind of statistics should be forthcoming from EDC, since they must have them. They have this big rendering.
Sure, we can certainly, we have the presentation that they gave, and we can certainly include it. I think in the appendices, there was more information, because we
I'll
did
check.
ask about the heights of things. That's always kind of like the height, density, and bulk is the determination of behemoth versus, I don't necessarily remember. I'd have to go look through the recording, but we'll share that. It wasn't very concrete. No, I agree.
And Leslie, you have a contact at EDC that you've been dealing with regularly. Could we reach out to them to get this kind of information?
We can.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't think they took it to that level of design where they will have that information available. This was the master plan, which is kind of these high level sketches, but I don't think they have.
Okay, well, I'll give you a high level alternative.
I think, one of the questions that I'd love to see more dimension and information, but Tracy and Tom, the thing that makes me very concerned based on my conversations with ADC on the Lower East Side of Manhattan when we're looking at FIDI Seaport Master Plan is they are going to environmental review potentially. An environmental review is the line in the sand that you can pick out the drapes and the paint colors, but they've already put the line in where it is, and that doesn't change. So they talked a lot about, well, we can adjust height and bulk, and we don't really know information on this, but this is where your wall's going to be. And that is, I guess, one of my main concerns that we have here for CB4 and the trust and everyone is that if they're moving forward to environmental review, to understand very concretely what parts are fixed from that point and what parts are not. So that's one of my requests. And then no matter what, I think the word comes to my mind, it's a shanda. I don't know why that word's the right one in my head today, but it's a disgrace to have this dialogue and not really recognize that it is the park, and the park should be managing all the green space, and the park should be the primary driver of how the connectivity works for park users, which includes pedestrians, cars, service, bicycles, not to put them last, trust me, last mile delivery and everything else, because it's a nice thing to give you a pretty marina for last mile delivery. But if it's all diesel and it's all up against the park, then that's not a good environmental impact unless
Yes.
you're going to require it all to be electric, which as far as I've seen thus far in this entire plan, everything is diesel. So we're encroaching on the estuary, we're adding more diesel capacity.
Actually, it's a citywide problem. I've been working with Resilient Red Hook on the Brooklyn Marine Terminal. And down there, EDC is planning on filling in 11.17 acres of buttermilk channel so they can build 42-story, 6,000 resident buildings in a neighborhood that's 3 stories and 4 stories high. So they're planning to fill in at the passenger ship terminal. They're planning to fill in Lower Manhattan. They're planning to fill in the Brooklyn waterfront. I don't know where they're getting their magic wand to usurp environmental regulations, but that's why I'm glad Tracy and Deborah are on it, because it seems to be a pattern. They just throw it out there as if, they can build on top of 9 acres of an estuarine sanctuary just as of right. They did.
Tom, I have a question for you, and I
Yes.
would love to see the plan. I'm specifically interested, definitely interested. We would love alternatives. CB4 would, because we were looking for alternatives and we asked from EDC. And obviously, as I said, they didn't give any alternatives, but can I
Well,
put
you
a
guys
few
got an
things-
awful lot out of your negotiation, I'll tell you that. You did a
We
good
tried.
job.
Can I put just some things on your radar? So
Sure.
when you do have it,
Yeah, mhm.
If the big problem is drop off and pickup right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, that's why there was the widening of it. So that would be up top now, right?
Yep. Everything would be above the highway. So all of the bottom would be open.
Kind of like an airport terminal.
Yeah,
right?
right, exactly. You just go up and in the building is where everything would happen. And then they
Right.
come out the other side. Either way, they could go north or south. This way it wouldn't all be on that west side, which crams everything on the southbound lane and makes access and egress so tough.
So
This actually
we would be
increases accuracy.
sacrificing, I'm just saying, we would be sacrificing the new open public park space then that would be included. We would
I
not.
don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that the same type of, it's just, I'm just saying, take the whole thing and shift it back over the highway. So the piers don't have to be as long. The amenities are still there, but the building is, instead of over the park, it's over the highway.
No, yeah, no, you're right. But if the extension also included that big new public park space. But
Well,
if
the
we
roofs
can
of
get
the-
that
yeah.
somewhere else, that would be wonderful.
We can, we'll see. There's nothing is actually similar. And as you said, everything
Yeah.
they promised may not happen, including filling in the river.
And the other thing, just when because I'm very interested in this alternative, just remember that the eastern part of the highway, now that you're moving it east, that's a neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
that, Hell's Kitchen, people live there, that's a
Yeah.
neighborhood. And right now, the terminal is separated by the highway, right? So you don't get that suffocation in the neighborhood. Moving it east, I'm just curious of, you know what I mean? It's going to be butted now up to where people
No,
live
it
and
would
work.
be
And
there, the building, it could look as they show it, which is like a glass oval or something like that. It doesn't have to be a solid building. It should be a contemporary building as they're planning. So it would be in addition to the neighborhood, I think. And it would be set away from the buildings like the next block would be if there were a block there, but it'll be, 25 feet in the air as they're planning. So everything underneath it, from the sidewalk all the way out, you'll be able to see and walk across the street at the crosswalks, and all the traffic on the surface will remain the same,
right,
I
well,
believe.
so if you looking at the thing you put up on the east side,
Yes.
that's elevated. So now you're saying the terminal is going to be flush with DeWitt Clinton Park.
No, the terminal will be across the sidewalk is 25 feet wide. So it'll be like a regular sidewalk on an avenue. Okay, like you're walking down the block and there's a building on the other side of the block. But the building will be elevated. All underneath it will be access to the park, visual and physical access to the park, greenery, The highway will be there, but it may even be muffled a bit, the sound
Okay.
by the building. I don't know.
Tom,
It depends on
I
how you
think
treat the
once we
bottom of the
have-
building.
Tom,
Yes.
I think once we have something written to react to that we can
Sure.
share with everyone, it doesn't become a dialogue between 3 or 4 people who are well versed in
Understood.
it
Understood.
versus an advisory council, which is almost 50 people who some of us do know, some of us don't. So I would really appreciate you tell us when you're ready and we'll put this up. And I do think that means that we are not doing a possible resolution tonight. We're going to wait. Does that sound right for everybody in the room? Right? No, well, it's EDC, you never know. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, and they know
But
it.
if we do
so-
find there's a deadline, I rely on Tom and
Okay.
Leslie and Tracy to come back to us and let us
Great.
know that, we've hit some kind of a strategic milestone and we have a deadline with public comment. That would be really helpful. All right, which
Thank you.
our next meeting is April 21st. Please, as Susan noted, we are voting in the executive committee. It's 4 elected members at large are nominated at that meeting and elected. So that is one that we'll have to make sure if you're a member, you're here. If your alternate is attending, please make sure you let us know in advance so we can have ballots ready. And if anyone is interested in serving, please email Susan on the membership committee or Wendy. And with that, we did once again invite Air Pegasus to come and I feel like, this will be my constant comment, but we did invite them. We did let them know that we are so delighted that Gateway Project is still up and running. And since they have noted on their website that they are still functional and working, that we see no reason that they can't come and talk to us. So, all right, stand by and we'll see what happens in April. But if you have additional topic suggestions and future ideas, please email us. That's how we make this work. Mr. Wiggins, you are the last comment before we close.
Hi there. Thanks, Tom. Always exciting when you're speaking about something. I'm wondering if you can, well, I got 2 requests. One, could this go to 4 first because they're well versed and it would make
Sure.
a lot more sense if they could, ask and answer with you. I think that would be great. And I would really appreciate it if we could get this stuff early once it's gone through some sort of process because I can't manage to really follow along if I just get it
Right.
right there. Really appreciate your work on it. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
I'll try
Okay.
and get things by the June meetings because it's going to take time to
Alrighty.
get all of the information together. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. And Michael, I'm sure, is very busy preparing for a new and upcoming season, which maybe hopefully next month, he'll give us some highlights. Thank you. I got a thumbs up on that. That's awesome. And until that point, do I have a motion to adjourn? And it's been seconded, 8:20. Thank you very much. We'll see everybody in April. Don't forget, it's voting if you want to serve on the exec. Hopefully we'll hear from Michael and go and enjoy our park. Thank you and have a great night.